And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Aaron Castro. I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Victor Perez in New York, Josh Fredland, content editor for earfulofdirt.com, and our producer, Corey Munson in Iowa. So hit him up, hashtag EODpod, and in the comments on YouTube. How's everyone's week been going?
Awesome action coming from MLR this week, guys. We'll talk about it in a moment.
Yeah, a lot of fun Sunday, especially. Sunday night was... I was pretty amped. I had a hard time going to bed that night. Let's put it that way.
Really? Impressive. Nothing from the silent.
Yeah, Josh is good.
Oh.
No, none. None.
I gotcha. So for those new to the podcast, each Monday night we conjugate to discuss news and rumors for Major League Rugby, the United States Professional Rugby Union competition. It's a chance to discuss the issues, hear from the league, team leadership, and check in with our friends across U.S. rugby scene. So if anyone has a review, if you want to give us 5 stars, please do. It helps out the show as per usual. You know the drill. And I think we may have some merch to give out to the next 5-star review. I don't know, but we will try. So what do we got this week, Josh?
Week 4 of Major League Rugby brought a big win for the Utah Warriors, a very tight game for the Seattle Seawolves, and an even tighter game between the Glendale Raptors and the San Diego Legion. We got new signings, Week 5 predictions, Eagles news, and more. So let's get to it.
All right. So Utah 41-22 over Austin. So there's a little bit of regression here. The Warriors continue to show improvement, but Austin kind of laid an egg on the road, to be honest.
I don't know about you guys, but I had Austin versus Glendale Raptor flashbacks while watching this game.
Yeah, it was sort of no, it wasn't that dominating, but the scoreline was, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I saw, more efficient attack from Austin again, but what they did not have was this wonderful word. What is the word I'm looking for? Anyone got a word I'm looking for?
Starts with a D?
Starts with a D.
Is it defense?
Defense. Defense.
I just want to say that Josh and I said it in unison. We did not plan that. That was just really cool, Josh.
So Austin's defense is like a sieve. Things are just coming in left and right. It's just I wonder really what's going on in the film room. Are they laying each other out? Or they be like, dude, you missed this assignment. They just gave away too many opportunities and just didn't get it done.
And just to break it down from the beginning, guys. So kickoff starts. Austin is on defense, and I blanking exactly what happened. But the thing is that they caused a penalty kick for Utah. So Utah goes and takes a kick. I believe Kurt Moraf made it. And on top of the game was kind of messy because of the wet conditions on the field. And speaking of Kurt Moraf, he did some really nice setups for both Jerry Whippy and Paul Asik to score tries. So that was quite nice. And for a while, the Warriors were in the driver's seat of that match. And then all of a sudden, there's a rock right there by their in-goal line. That is Austin attacking the Warriors in-goal line. And Marcus Walsh, their scrum half, is about to pass. He does a fake up, and scores a try. Looked really nice, I have to say. Then, again, Warriors are still in the lead. Comes the second half, And the funniest thing is that the commentators are talking about the fact that Hanko Hemmerscheis was a non-equation in the first half. So they say that Anderson Nula comes in, breaks the line, the game line, sets up Hanko, scores. As soon as I finished mentioning that comment, he scores, which I found really funny.
I didn't really have issues with Hanko's performance. He's just all over the place all the time. I mean, his work rate in the first half when it came to defense was pretty much there. On offense, I wouldn't say things were created for him and he usually creates his own, but they just, I don't know. They just weren't being efficient, and you had sort of, individual brilliance again, and last week I want to say the individual brilliance sort of stopped. Their attack worked really well, and whereas this time, who's the person with individual brilliance? It was Marcus Walsh, right? Snuck in off a ruck for a try, and then was able to grab Ned Hodson's chip kick. So, but man, I really feel bad for the Whippy brothers. 2 weeks and same injury, like both compound fractures. That is insane.
Yeah,
and not only that,
it definitely sucked to see that. Victor.
Yeah, you guys woke up for me for a moment. I don't know if it was me. No, what I was gonna say. Not only that, they got the exact same injury. I don't know if it's the same. I forgot the name of that injury they got in the leg.
It's a compound fracture.
Compound fracture. Thank you, Aaron. That's exactly right. So, and they're already twins. So now they have the same injury. I mean, 2 weeks apart, 2 or 3 weeks apart, but still, same injury. Now, it would be, quote unquote, funny if it was in the same leg, but I don't know if it is.
I don't think it's the same leg, but it's not funny. That would be just insane. Like 2 weeks apart, same exact injury. Wow. I mean,
that's
and then
why
if it was on the same leg, it would be brutal.
Yeah.
And quote some funny. I know the coincidence of them being brothers and twins on top.
So
it was nice to see that killer instinct from Utah. So
we got a question from Liam. Is Walsh going back to Rooney next year? And the reality is yes. But he's not the only one that's going back to Rooney. You have Dylan Fawcett, who is also on loan, Ross Deacon and Mike Brown, who are on loan from Rooney, and they all have to go back. Whereas the guys in San Diego, that's way different. They're fully contracted to the Legion. They do not belong to New York. They're not on loan. So if Rooney wants any of those guys to come to New York, they're either going to have to pick them up because they got cut, or they're going to have to trade for them. That's the reality right now, as I understand it. Because there is no free agency, right? So.
Yeah. No free agency, which I think is kind of sucks at the beginning, but at the same time, I understand it.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. It's kind of brutal, but it is what it is. Really, we talked about individual brilliance for Austin, but that's really all that Utah has as well. I'm watching their game, and when they're on the attack, they're not really running a shape, and not so much like the like Seawolves don't necessarily run a shape. Seawolves run an attack. Like it's a bi-level pod system, so it is relatively complicated. But it looks to me that, I don't know what kind of attack that Utah is doing other than get the ball to Lasike and Vinicola. Just let them run.
So that seemed like the strategy, because whenever Vinicola gets the ball, he's just 1 minute he's on one side of the field, 2 seconds later he's on the other side. So,
but to move forward, this match was the craziness here. Seattle wins in a nail biter, 31-29 against NOLA. It's a very tight match, but I really think, and my conversations with Coach Osborne today really, sort of hammered in that point, is like they blew an opportunity. He said the boys knew it, but he was relatively happy with their performance in the last quarter, how they were able to fight back, and they weren't playing flat. When the Seawolves stepped on their neck, they came back and they were trying. They were close. If not for a few errors, they had a shot.
Yeah, it definitely helped. Victor having connection problems again.
So Victor, you there? You good?
I technical difficulties.
All right. So we were talking about NOLA and how they pretty much had a shot. Very disappointing. But they were, at the end, they were close, right?
Yeah. What was it? The last 10 minutes before Utah went on their run?
Not Utah. Seattle.
Yeah, it shows how much I'm paying attention. My bad.
I was like, what? I was about to say the same thing because I heard the whole NOLA thing. So, speaking of the NOLA game, because I'm going again with the Seattle NOLA game. NOLA was shown in the first.
Jeez. You all right?
Well, let me just try to make up for it and just say that NOLA needs to find a damn kicker.
Yeah. I mean, that was pretty rough, right? And the word on the street is that there is a well-known professional midfielder, although I have perused Instagram and I cannot find a face that I recognize that is hanging out in NOLA. So if someone just wants to throw a leaflet in the transom for me to look up, I will gladly do so.
Yeah, I didn't see anything either.
But yeah, so it looks like Victor is having some technical difficulties, like you guys mentioned, but he did have some notes here, so I might just kind of go through here real quick and talk a little bit about the game. I watched the game as well, but I didn't take any good notes, so I'll just kind of go off what he was talking about. Victor noted that there was definitely some handling errors, and which didn't allow NOLA to score early. Ratu Rinakama scores after scrum penalty, so that was a good play. And he also noted that Matthew Turner and Matt Houston put their names on the score sheet, and so that was really impressive. And I think his conclusion was basically that NOLA should have won the game had things been different. What do you think of that?
I mean, they were in position to, right? They had the advantage in the first half. They just didn't. They missed kicks and they didn't convert their other opportunities towards points. They just, the handling errors seem to plague everyone on the day, except that, when you had the ability to score like 20, like 21, or possibly even 24 points, and you somehow let the opposition, get within, get within 5, because it's like 15-10 at the half, right? And it's like, what the heck is going on here? And, they came out, and Willie Rozaleka, 42 minutes in, puts a try in off the try assist from Shalom Sunil. So Liam asks, question, do you think Utah stays in the running for top 4? Or do you think a team like Houston or NOLA is more likely to ascend? I like Houston and NOLA because they have the structure. They have the coaching necessary to get there. I just don't see Utah's current attack good enough to sustain them against a good team. So I think, if the next time they play San Diego, or the next time they play Seattle, or the next time they play Glendale, I think they're going to get crunched. That's what I think. Individual talent only gets you so far, whereas everything's built around the team with Houston and NOLA.
And just to drag on to that team point, it was nice to see Seattle kind of break away from it and go with individual brilliance, because this was even though they've only played 3 matches, this was their first match with more than 2 tries that came from players and not by way of penalty try.
Oh yeah, I mean, they were. I think their pod system will facilitate more individual brilliance than the attacks that New Orleans and Houston are running. But if Houston and New Orleans cycle the ball fast enough to their backs, it's not going to matter, because you're going to get that individual brilliance anyways that's coming off of good phase play, right? Whereas the situational difference with Seattle is, if your scrum half is off, you're kind of screwed, right? Which we've seen.
Same with your fly half for Taylor Howden.
Oh, Taylor Howden was playing center, and I think that was a bad decision for me, because he's really not a kicking fly half, and old Silver Fox, his defense just ain't there. So if you're gonna be a liability on defense, you need to play fly half and not center, where you're supposed to freaking truck people.
So how much of that yellow card was frustration on his part?
I would have given him a red, because you just don't need that, right? Because the ball was gone, and he could have literally he had enough time to stop himself dead, and he would have probably still hit, but it wouldn't have been what it was, which was a cheap shot, right? Mm-hmm. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And so I think Corbier was kind of being nice and let's just get out of here.
Yeah, probably. So I guess one last piece of news from this. Sorry if I'm taking this from you, Corey. John Goodman showed up.
Dude.
That's awesome.
How awesome was that? I wish that that TV spot that went out locally went out nationally, because it's that was awesome, right? Because I was like, John Goodman played rugby? So John Goodman's apparently a Nor FC old boy. And no one's been no one's really ever talked about that. And he lives in New Orleans when he's not shooting and stuff. and that was pretty dope. I want that to get written into Roseanne. I want them to talk about the MLR in Roseanne, and I'm not talking about paying for anything. I'm talking about John Goodman as a fan going to the writers and be like, let's go to a rugby match in the show.
Just have him show up at a Lions match.
Roseanne goes to British and Irish Lions.
Or the Chicago Lions. That's more what I had in mind, but hey, whatever.
Well, I haven't watched the show currently, so it's in Chicago. Well, that shows you my pop culture right now. One more thing I think, just because I know people are going to talk about it, is the field conditions. It seemed a little rough, a little patchy at times. Do you have any thoughts on that? Well, I mean, so prior to the stands going in, the pitch was fine. Like, I have a picture of it on my phone. It looks fucking nice. And then they had to bring in some, like, cranes and stuff, and I think they had to tear out some turf because it got ruined when they had to install the stands. So, I mean, that pitch was never designed as a football-only pitch. They raised the pitch. They raised the field. By raised, I mean they tore it out. It used to be a practice football field with a dirt track for the Shaw High School track team to practice on, and they yanked the whole thing out, and then they seeded the field, put on new sod, and it was nice before they had to put the stands in. And I think then they had some issues with the construction, which we saw, of course, with the sand lines in the preseason, and then we saw this time. And I just think they had to put in new turf, and it's when fields get used a lot, it kind of sucks,
Yeah, but once, kind of similar to what we've seen at some of the other teams, I was really impressed with the fan engagement. I mean, they've got their own pep band. That was just delightful.
So and they wrote songs. And I have the song sheet. It's not the whole thing. Let me look this up.
So let me jump in real quick with it. Yeah. So if we get a battle of the bands between NOLA and Glendale, who wins?
NOLA and Glendale? What are you talking about?
The Mile Highlanders.
Well, so that's different, right? Well, we can talk about that because there's two sets of pipers, right? And I said this on Twitter. I was like, the next time the Warriors and the Raptors face each other, they need to have dueling pipe bands. So, I'm loving the band for NOLA. It was pretty awesome, and apparently they led cheers, and it was great. So the whole sheet is called "Keep Calm and Carry On," calm with a K. So the first one is sung to Achy Breaky Heart. It's called the Matt Houston song. It's like, he's got a stash, he's got a mullet. I just don't think you understand. He's gonna get her done. His name is Matt Houston. We've got a heartbreaker, number 7.
Wait, are they rhyming "get it done" with Houston? So it would be House Don?
I don't know. It's just sung to Achy Breaky Heart. Then you've got the Taylor Howden song. He makes it look easy because he's a Kiwi. And then obviously Know When to Hold 'Em from Kenny Rogers, right? So for Holden Younger, and it didn't go further down. I need to get someone else to give me a full picture. It's like, you got to know when to hold him, know when to run. So that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you can do to get that local engagement, I mean, all day long, that's just going to build your fan base. So good on them.
So let's move on and cover what I consider the match of the week. The intensity of this game was crazy, and maybe that was the weather conditions, right? Because
and what game was it?
Glendale Sword over San Diego, 31-27. Glendale Raptors defeat San Diego. So
it was a heck of a game, heck of a match. Who wants to go first on this one? Aaron, I think you had some thoughts.
So, as everyone knows, I think Nate Augsburger is a wing, and it looks like San Diego figured that out. Because Nick Boyer started at scrum half, and boy, was he was awesome. So Nick stands around like 6'2", 6'3". So he's a different type of player, right? Different animal than Nate Augsburger, who's about 5'8". Both are are hyper athletic when it comes to how fast they are, what they can like fit through, and they can. Nick was able to quick carry off the ruck and just gain meters all the time. His ball speed was great, and his abilities in defense were awesome. And I guess Brian Ray said something about that. Hey, when your scrum half is a loose forward, that works out for you quite well. So,
yeah, or when your 8 tries to play scrum half too.
Well, there's that, But so, what did you guys think of this game?
I thought it was good. I think it showed that San Diego is consistently getting better week to week. Those forward training sessions with Alex Corbacero definitely started to pay off. It was nice to see them push Glendale, but I think that's going to happen the rest of the season. Glendale's going to get pushed, but I think they're going to have the skill to overcome that, even if they're not training as much as we think they are. That Glendale is leaving too much to chance, I think. They kind of need to push the tempo more, but they also need to hold on to the ball.
Yeah, looking at watching the Glendale game again, I think Dave is, going to be a great coach right now, and is going to be, up there for a long time. But I've discussed, what I think about like how they train, and I think they need to add more sessions when it comes to team runs and all that stuff. But when I look at this match, it's shown a tremendous improvement from San Diego, which we talked about. But it also showed that, Glendale isn't doing the things that I've expected them to do, right? And Bryce Campbell, one of my favorite players, he couldn't catch a good pass, but he could catch ducks all day. Like if they were just garbage and, they were going into the ground, he was able to catch those. But the good ones, he knocked on.
Yeah.
That was a problem. If you look at the rest of their backs, overall, they didn't cycle the ball enough to the backs. They were able to run relatively well off their pods, but they didn't get the balls to the playmakers. And, I think if they ran more of their pods, they would have been more dominant than they were to an extent, because they weren't dominant up front for most of that period. But if they had just played in the center of the field, we would have seen sort of a different game. And when you're on grass, you can play that way.
Well, I think part of that is I was there when Coach Williams gave his post-game speech or post-game press conference, and he said that he expected the Legion to play a wider, more free-flowing type of game, and the fact that they didn't, I think, influence that, and they didn't make the adjustments to it.
Well, yeah, there were some pieces that you just didn't see from like the last week. Their backs didn't play with the ball that much, right? And they went to a forward-centered game. All their tries came off a maul, right? Mm-hmm. You had, Sione to Yalamaka, first try, then straight through, right? Is that right? Yeah. So 1, 2, 3 were their tries. Sione Tuialamaka, Pat Blair, and then Dolph Botha, all with their tries. And they all came off the maul. But also, every team in the league needs to stop doing this because I've seen this way too often. Contest the line out against San Diego. If you don't, you will pay, which that happened 3 times against San Diego. One of those times, they got a try. The other time, the last time, they were very close. And this game would have been a victory for San Diego at the end of the game.
Well, one of the tries, I remember sitting across the field. They were trying not to engage, but the ref didn't call it. They were literally sitting back, and the ref didn't call anything.
So I was, as far as this game goes, I was really impressed with their ability to scrum and maul, and I thought that was very encouraging and surprising part from San Diego. I also think that we're really seeing. I think this showed us that Glendale's not undefeatable. They're not invincible. Of course, nobody's beat them yet. But Liam sent in a comment just a minute ago saying for the last 3 weeks, Glendale has been kept scoreless through the first 10 minutes. Glendale has cracks in their armor that are starting to show, and I think that's true. That being said, they've kind of had some of the toughest competition, especially the last 2 weeks, that I think they're going to experience this season. I think.
So that sort of fed into my point about their training. They're bringing in all these new guys that haven't been in the system. Like, what was it? If you look at the roster, I just saw some new people, right? And that haven't been in the Merlins or Raptors system. So the way to get them on the same page is for you to be practicing like the max amount of time you can practice, right? They need to be on the same to get them on the same sheet of music. They need to be doing more and more. And that's where, I think the cracks are. It's not the talent. It's the new guys not being at the same place. And it is starting to show for me. And I think we've talked about this. My expectations for Glendale were pretty much to beat everyone by double digits. And most of the teams probably by 15 to 20. And they've, squeaked out away against Utah and then squeaked out this one against San Diego. But credit to San Diego, scrummaging. The scrummaging improved sort of overnight when Dolph Botha got healthy. I think he's gotten in shape, and now he's back from injury. He's ready to go. And then add in, I think the scrummaging sessions with Corbs definitely helped with especially Sione. But the big thing for me is I don't think Coach Hodes needs to bring out his, front row so soon, because Botha and Tuialamaka were fine. Their fitness was good to go.
So very fun game, and just another really exciting match for MLR. I think this is the kind of thing that makes for great TV. This makes for great viewership, and it's great for the first season. So I'm glad that there hasn't been the blowouts that we were expecting from Glendale. That's really encouraging, actually. So, and then everybody else, I think, for the most part, we have a very well-distributed middle section of the league, kind of fighting for those second, third, fourth, fifth spots, and then we got kind of a one or two down right at the bottom. So it's really encouraging for the first season for me. I think I'm very impressed with the distribution of talent across the league. So we're seeing a lot of good stuff. Welcome back, Victor. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, guys. Again, sorry for the technical difficulties. I had to reboot the whole thing, and it took forever. So, Well, thank you for taking over.
No problem. Did you have any final thoughts on the Glendale game before we move on?
Well, did you guys already mention the beautiful try by Diachabal?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I'm talking about that sublime footwork that he did for him to score the first try. I believe that was the first try by Glendale, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah.
The try I liked the most was Seth Holloman basically tiptoeing along the touchline and avoiding 4 tackles somehow in the second half. That was the one I thought was like the best. That was the try of the week from MLR, actually.
Really? So, okay.
Yeah. But moving on. What do we have? So MLR player of the week was Marcus Walsh, scrum half from Austin Elite. He had 2 tries and a try-saving tackle. That kept AER in the game. And then the EOD play of the week is a try that old school Victor just talked about, which was Maximo de Acheval. He did some tango with the Legion. I think he just went up and zoomed, and he may have done a spin move. I don't know, but there were 4 dudes that were within that could have touched each other's arms that let him skitter in between and score try. So
I'm telling you guys, those were tango skills that he picked up when he was living in Buenos Aires before he went back to the States.
So what is everyone's game of the week?
Okay, I'll take that one first. Raptors Legion. I mean, that thing was gorgeous. I mean, that was a battle where the team that made the least errors was going to win. Unfortunately, SDL, San Diego Legion, it was that team. So it was really sad. That they could definitely have taken that game at the death, but it wasn't meant to be.
What do you got, Josh?
I actually went with Utah and Austin. It was nice to see that kind of killer instinct from Utah. They, like the Legion, they progressed, but and they showed a little bit versus Glendale, and it was nice to see them take that next step forward.
What about you, Corey?
I get my button unstuck there. Yeah. I went with the Glendale Legion match as well. For me, it was the most exciting game of the weekend. I found myself on my feet at the end of the match, just kind of rubbing my head and worried about what was going to happen. I've purposefully stayed uncommitted this season to any particular team, trying to be very supportive of all teams in the entire league. But I was kind of pulling for San Diego that night, just because I love an underdog story, and I love when the guy who's not supposed to win wins. So I was definitely hoping for a miracle there in that last phase, and of course nothing came of it. But that was, boy, I had a hard time winding down Sunday night, and that wasn't great for getting up for work on Monday morning. So really enjoyed that one a lot.
So for me, I just loved the pace of that game. It was the quality. I mean, it wasn't even, hey, there were a lot of errors or anything. The pace of play, the quickness, it was legit. Holy hell. Whereas I think the humidity slowed everyone down in New Orleans, and I think it really affected the scrummaging. For some reason, the humidity is affecting scrums. I have no idea why. Someone needs to tell me what the deal is with that. But pace of play, skills that were on display, everything, it was all good for me this weekend when it came to San Diego Legion and the Glendale Raptors. I think if that is the standard, if that becomes the standard across the league,
we're in good hands.
We're fine.
Mm-hmm.
We will develop players and we will be ready to go. But there was only one. The issue is that there was only one game like that this weekend, and that's pretty much where we've been at. Is one game that stands above the other two. But this one set the standard for me throughout the league.
I think one thing I probably should have mentioned it earlier as well, that was really troubling to me over the weekend was the unforced errors, just the problems with ball handling. I swear somebody buttered up those balls before every single game. I'm not sure what's going on with that. So do you think that is something related to just the newness of the players, the week in, week out, or do you think it's just an unusual weather conditions? What are your guys' thoughts on that one?
You know what? I definitely agree with Corey, and I'll tell you why. I was watching, and by the way, if you haven't, I recommend you do. I was watching the Champions Cup final, which was Leinster Rugby from Ireland versus Racing 92.
Talk about the most boring game.
I know, right? No, but in terms of handling skills, not what happened at the game itself, but you could see the difference.
The game was good. Like they were, but yeah.
Yeah, but again, going back with the handling skills, you could see the difference between that game and all this past 3 MLR games. Of course, I do agree that the Glendale Legion game was leagues better in terms of action than the Champions Cup game that happened down in Bilbao in the Basque country in Spain. But in terms of the skill set of those players in comparison to the ones, like, say, Glendale Legion in terms of handling and the like, you see the difference. You could definitely see the difference.
So, I mean, there's that. But I think when it comes to the weather and all that stuff, we've talked about altitude and how it's going to affect players, going to Denver. It'll affect players, too, in Salt Lake because that's just as high. I think Salt Lake's probably about 500 feet less. But San Diego didn't lose the game because altitude. Altitude was not a problem for them. So that says their training has been on point. Like, they're getting run at high intensities in San Diego where they're at sea level, right? But, these players haven't been asked to play at this level of fitness ever, for the most part. Yeah, we've got some, sevens players from the national team from Fiji, and we've got some, former professionals from across Europe, but I would say 80% of these 80 to 90% of these rosters haven't been asked to play at this level of intensity, this level of fitness, and this, physicality, which is why you're seeing all the errors. It's because you're seeing all the big fish in the small pond have to swim in a school of fish and not get eaten by a shark, right? That's the difference. So the errors will clean up, but it's going to be ugly, to be honest.
I understand the point you're trying to make, Aaron, and I agree. I agree. Obviously, as the seasons go by and the more the cohesion there is between the players, as the seasons go by, I'm sure we'll see that less and less. At least my hope, that is.
So,
yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think there's also something to be said for the teams attempting to put on an exciting, thrilling, something that fans can watch and get excited about. So I think there is some pressure probably coming in, suggesting that you play fast, you play flashy, and trying to appeal to an audience that's used to superstars in professional sports. I think, I have no way of knowing, but if that's actually happening or a discussion, or if it's perhaps even just a subconscious thing. But I suspect that may be something, especially when you look at a team like San Diego or something. They play fast. They play, let's throw this thing around, let's make some beautiful passes and really get some stuff going. And that opens you up to a lot of potential errors when you do that. So
I wonder, because Gary Gold talks to the coaches all the time, and I don't think he's saying this, But I wonder if, because like we started to play wide open rugby under Mitchell, right? And we've played wide open rugby under Gary so far, right? So do you think they're saying, hey, like, for my Eagles guys, we're going to play wide open. We're going to play fast. We're going to play big. So those are the kind of things that I need you to have in your game plan that facilitate me to select players. Because, they talk about in New Zealand, children learn to play the same way as the All Blacks growing up, which isn't really true, but there are certain things that are the complete same. They probably learn 70% of what they need to learn, before they're 10 years old for to play like the All Blacks.
Interesting.
That's some beautiful consistency, that's for sure.
Seriously.
And talk about building a pipeline. I mean, straight up to the top there.
Mm-hmm. That's a country of 5 million inhabitants, everyone.
So
less than the city of New York.
Seriously.
All right.
Yeah, round 4, prediction time. So I wasn't here last week. I didn't get to weigh in on this, but do you guys want to kind of share what you had?
I continue to suck. So for Austin, I got demolished on this. Well, in general, I think everyone got demolished, but everyone else got it right. For Austin, I got wrecked. So I lost that one. Josh, what did you have?
I had Utah -3.
Victor.
Well, I got Utah -7. So yeah, I was really far.
And then, for Seattle, man, I was so close. So freaking close. This was the only one I got right this weekend. I had Seattle over NOLA by 1 point, and they won by 2. So
2?
Hey, they won by 2.
Never mind.
So I was the closest person. Well, actually, yeah. So Josh and I were the closest in our predictions, except it was a different game that he was closer to. So.
Well, I had the score. I had the scoreline right. I just had the wrong team. So I had NOLA -2.
Yeah, Victor, what did you have?
I was super far. I was trying to give Seattle the benefit of the doubt. I said, they're going to win by 2 converted tries, so by 14. So I could have not been farther from the actual score.
So, and the final game of the week, I went bold, man. I took some shit for this one. It's like, apparently I'm a San Diego Legion fan. If you haven't, no one knows. Yeah, I'm a San
Did you know that?
fan. No. I'm just like a cynic and a critical MFer. So like I'll go after people about scrummaging. I'll go after people. I don't care. But I just was confident in Glendale wasn't playing the way I wanted them to play, and they weren't. They didn't, right? The way I want them to play is to beat everyone by at least 10. So, and they beat SD by fucking 4. So, I had San Diego -5.
I had Glendale -3. I thought when Dylan Audsley put the Legion ahead 27-24, I didn't think Glendale was going to get another try. I thought they were going to kick 2 more penalty kicks. No.
Well, I also had Glendale by 5, so I was off by just by 2 points. So
Remember,
that's what it is.
I guess when it comes to fabric, you always want to cut more, but when it comes to cake, you want to cut less, something like that. So one doesn't have the other. But yeah. Moving on to round 5. Let's see what we got. Only 2 games this week. Make sure you get your picks on Super Brew. You can search it Earful of Dirt, and then if you can't find it, email us at earfuldirt.com, and I will send you the stuff.
earfulofdirt@gmail.com, please.
So
So yeah, Aaron, what's your picks for the weekend?
So the bye has not been kind to any team. So I'm going to go NOLA -3 because it's their home game. They've got a Zydeco band, and Houston's coming off a bye. So
I have a similar scoreline. I got NOLA -3, but I think it's just because John Goodman brings them good luck.
Well, guys, I have Houston by 10. So we'll see if they don't keep me down. But let's say 10.
Wow, it looks like we're splitting this right down the middle. I'm with Victor. I'm saying Houston by 7. Just because I don't know, I'm worried that NOLA might be down for the count here after last weekend. So we'll see what happens.
So moving on, let's get to transactions. Bryce Campbell has been signed by the London. Huh?
Oh. Real quick, before we do that, do we want to talk about the Utah-Seattle game?
I totally fucked that one up. So, Utah at Seattle. Who do you guys got?
I got Seattle -5.
I got Seattle by 14.
I got Seattle by 13.
Yeah, I'm going Seattle -7. Offensively, they haven't scored a ton of stuff except for this weekend on their own. But I do not think Utah is going to have a fun time in the loudest stadium in the MLR. And, it's the only stadium that's been sold out consecutively. So they're sold out the rest of the season, which is dope. So they added 100 seats, like actual seats, so that got capacity to 3,600, and then they sold 190-ish standing room only. They're trying to get authorization for more standing room only tickets. I think they're trying to authorize 200 more standing room only tickets, which will get you close to 4,000. And the way the tickets are going, you'll probably get to 4,000 even. So that's pretty awesome.
And I know you mentioned that Starfire can expand to 7. Are they looking into that?
I think for next year. I think they're set now. I think the kind of planning that it took to get Starfire to 7K for club national sevens, that was a year process when it came to, hey, we want to have a big, a good capacity. Whereas I think they thought, 3,500 plus standing room only is going to be a good start. And they exceeded expectations. So I don't know if they'll try to go all the way to 7K next year, but they might as well. They might as well see if they can get, 6K every game. They might get 7K, and they might have to go find a new venue.
But regarding the Seattle game, it does sound like we're in the Utah-Seattle game. It does sound like we're in agreement on that one. So all 4 of us are saying that Seattle are going to handle that one pretty well. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So now, Aaron, I know you're ready. I know you're excited. Go for it.
Bryce Campbell has signed with the London Irish. He's the second Glendale Raptor to sign with a team in the RFU Championship. So cool for him. He doesn't get an off season at the end of the Eagles tour and at the end of the MLR season. If Glendale is in the playoffs, he will have to fly directly to training camp with the London Irish. Good for him. Seattle Seawolves have brought on Cole Van Horn and Sequoia Burke-Combs from the Seattle Saracens program. And then Mike Palafau, formerly of the Seawolves, who left to take care of some family issues, is now a Utah Warrior. So he ended up playing a lot for Utah, and he was a definite difference maker for them against Austin. Is there any tweet of the week? Did we find anything?
Yes, we did. So, guys, I'm going to be taking over the tweet of the week portion of the show. I don't think we haven't mentioned already, but shout outs to Dan. He's been busy this past couple of days, just to let you guys know. But in any case, taking over Dan's tweet of the week. I guess we might as well call this Dan's tweet of the week. He's the one who came up with the idea, so it's only fair that he has his name whenever he's not here. So our tweet of the week, guys, for this week is coming from a gentleman named David Simpson, who is attached to the Northampton Saints up in the UK. So he had a really cool tweet about MLR games, and I quote, "Seeing USMLR ads on TV in the US. Actual goosebumps. # rugby." I don't know if he got goosebumps because he saw ads for rugby of the US and he wasn't used to it. I don't know if those are good goosebumps or bad goosebumps because of it. I'm not really sure, but in any case, he actually got goosebumps by looking at ads. And yeah, that's the tweet of the week. Very short.
So moving on to views, news, and abuse. Corey, you found this one. So this is cool.
This is interesting. This was a lucky find tonight because I don't think this news is supposed to come out till tomorrow. So it appears that tomorrow it will be announced that Washington, D.C. is getting a MLR team in 2020. So that's season 3. According to a yet-to-be-released press release that is up on the internet for no apparent reason, 2 guys over there in the D.C. area, Paul Sheehy and Chris Dunlavi, have secured the rights to the yet-unnamed team. Additionally, they hope to start accepting season ticket deposits in conjunction with the June 2 Wales South Africa match to be held in DC. So I think they're trying to leverage the excitement of that international match to really push this new home team coming into DC in a couple of years. Some of the other tidbits from the press release, they claim that as of now, 12,000 tickets have been sold to the Wales South Africa game, which is good. That's actually fantastic. Additionally, it's lost my train of thought. So additionally, that sounds like a really good opportunity to have a kind of a captured audience, especially if they can somehow tie that into the match itself. So
getting into this one's funny. You know how I've said every time James Kennedy has like a soundbite, he's always talking about DC, right? Like, and I couldn't find jack squat. So Corey finds this. Well, Paul Sheehy, when the New York Pro 14 shit like stopped, and before they expanded to Pro 14 with South Africa, all of a sudden there was an article that linked Paul Sheehy, a former USA Eagle and USA Rugby donor, by the way, to a team that the Pro 14 would expand to Washington, D.C. So there's your link. 2 guys that the Pro 14 was trying to get to buy an American franchise is now going to be an MLR owner in 2020.
So I guess that brings up the question: Do they cut and run if Pro 14 ever comes calling back?
Well, I don't think Pro 14's ever coming back. That's what what Pro 14 wants and what MLR is going to do is going to provide something way different. Whereas I think if you came up with a singular team, it doesn't do what we need it to do. Like having 40 guys of 40 of the best Americans in the Pro 14 is great, but they're going to get demolished every week. And, you're not looking – you don't want your Eagles pool to be 40 deep. you need your Eagles pool to be 300 deep, right? So MLR will do that. A team of the Pro 14 would have been great short term, but there's no reason. I mean, you guys had your turn. You guys could have done it. Go away. That's my opinion. And it's been my opinion for the last year. So
now let me ask you guys: do you think that having a U.S. Pro 14 team in Washington will be in similar standings as the Seawolves up in Super Rugby, for example, a team that has only won one game this whole season so far?
I mean, commercially or
no, just in terms of the team actually winning games, because I'm not going to say they always get blown up, because actually it's funny. The Seawolves lose, but you're not. At least I don't get mad because they show a commitment to actually win, but they keep losing anyways. But I mean, they lose triumphantly.
The issue I have, I mean, if they're competitive every game, it's whatever.
Of course.
If I'm losing by 7 or less in every game, it's okay. I'm eating it, right? It's just what it is, right? But if you get blown out every game and you go undefeated that way and you're not competitive, it's completely different. Because at some point, losing becomes what you do, right?
Exactly.
So
that's exactly right. And the team again has been losing quite a number of games since they entered the competition in 2016. So that's
moving on to finish up the news. Houston hosted their first skills camp. They had 84 young athletes out on Saturday. Hosted it with the West Houston Lions. The SaberCats U19s were in Austin for a round robin against Central and North U19s. Gary Gold had announced his squad for June last week, but Callum Black has already backed out. Maybe he's worried about his coffee business. Former Huns coach Eugene Eloff has been banned by Safe Sport USA for 10 years. His sanctions carry over to Saru, so he ain't coaching anytime soon. So, yeah. Thanks for nothing. Dean Howes was at the Rugby Americas meetings in Miami, sitting between Dan Payne and Augustin Gus Pichot. And then tonight, wrapping up our news, notes, and abuse. Dang, we did get abused. We left the abuse out. The Giants hosted Rugby Night tonight, had a floating rugby barge in McCovey Cove. Danny Barrett, Blaine Scully, Natalie Marquino, Todd Clever, Tony Ridnell, Dan Lyle are all there and the Sevens World Cup trophies are there as well to promote Rugby Night. They had, I think, 14,000 SF Giants rugby balls that they handed out tonight. So that's cool.
Growing the game, man. That's awesome. Okay. Well, we ready to do some questions?
Yeah.
All right. Questions from Bob. Shout out to Bob, as always, Bob B. Boberson, for sending in some great questions, as well as being our namesake for this segment. So tonight, Bob wants to know, we've all been saying that a professional competition will help the men's national team improve. Will that translate to more wins in the next World Cup or just better score lines? If so, how many wins? And what about the World Cup after that? So that'd be 2023?
Yeah.
24.
Yeah, 2019 to 2023. So, yeah, what do you guys think? What is this going to have a direct impact either in 19 or 23 on the U.S.'s performance in the World Cup?
So I think this is going to get us one, Tonga, and then we're going to have a coin flip. Whether that's France or Argentina, I don't know. But I think we've got a chance to go 3-1 or 2-2. But 2-2 would be based on us killing it in June and in the autumn, and MLR next season just crushing it.
And staying healthy, too, I think physical fitness and just not getting injured helps.
That's exactly right. But I'll tell you this right now, guys. So for 2019, I definitely agree with Aaron. The Tonga game has to be priority, obviously. Between Argentina and France right now, probably France more so than Argentina. Argentina is also quite inconsistent, but France is getting way more inconsistent than them. So I will push for that match, at least in my opinion. And in England, I see it as if they win, I'll be really surprised. But I really
downfall 2018, baby. Downfall 2018.
Hashtag downfall 2019. But we'll see what happens. By the way, guys, for those of you that are not in the know, that's the whole thing that happened with England losing 3 games in a row in the Six Nations, and they ended up 5th, a team that won the year prior. So people are saying the downfall 2019, and that Eddie Jones, the coach, is going downhill with it. So I don't know, but I would definitely like to see USA pulling at Japan. If you don't know what it is, pulling Japan is beating a team that's way higher than you, like Japan did over South Africa. But that would be great if USA could do that.
We need that scout, boys. Let's see him coming. All right, next question from Bob. Which scrum half would win in an American Gladiator, American Ninja Warrior wipeout style game show?
Actually, I'm going Nick Boyer because he's the biggest scrum half of all of them.
I mean, if we're going American Gladiators, yeah, but if we're going the other two, I'm going to say Holden Younger or
Osberger.
No, I'd go with Houston's.
Oh yeah, Toads, baby.
Yeah,
Connor Murphy. Yeah, he's got a mean streak too. But yeah, if we're going Ninja, I guess we're going Wipeout. Holden Younger, Toads would be my top 2. They got scrappy together, so.
By the way, I like the face that you made, Aaron, when I said Osberger's like, excuse me? That face was great.
I don't know. Augsburger just seems like a really nice person. I don't know.
Well, I mean, in the field might be something else. You never know.
Oh, yeah, in the field he's different, but I don't know.
You never know. Maybe
I think there was one. There was a game, not this ARC, but last ARC, where he definitely got himself into a fight that brought the front row in. And I was like, that's what scrum has to do. They get into fights. So
I thought that was Sean Davies.
Sean Davies got into a fight this ARC.
Did he? I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was against Uruguay.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah. You're right.
He is not afraid to mix things up.
Seriously. Dang it. By the way, speaking of fighting, dude, Holden Younger, my goodness, that kid. Like, for anything, he's like on top of players. And when,
I don't, man.
My goodness, that kid likes to fight. God dang it!
I think he's fine. If he was doing something extracurricular, he would have already been sent off. All I'm saying about that.
That is true. Okay, next question.
Next question. Milk Steak Connoisseur wants to know, and I've paraphrased this because it was a long freaking question, man. Regarding internationals playing in the MLR, which team stands to lose the most from the June test matches?
So the most is San Diego. They have 7, and then.
So you're talking Eagles. I'm talking internationals. Internationals playing in MLR.
Oh, let me
apologize for that. To me, my first thought is Seattle having a strong contingent from the Canadian team. I think that's one area that they're going to be struggling to fill some holes.
All right, so Seattle. Seattle is tied with, because of what I got. I got a nice little list sent to me. Seattle has 7 internationals going, 6 Canadians and 1 American. And then San Diego has 6 Eagle players going, and then of course Glendale. So yeah, Seattle's it's gonna be interesting for them, for sure, I think. But so there you go, right? Everyone else really isn't affected. Just Seattle, Glendale, and San Diego. Everyone else is like 1 or 2.
Milksteak mentioned Utah specifically, with all the Islanders playing for them, if they would head back to their respective nations.
Because none of them are internationals anyway.
Yeah, well, no.
I mean, asking their regular internationals right now, because I mean, you still got Morath and Vanicola, but they don't play for Franca anymore.
Morath, Vanicola, and Afu. I mean, yeah, they're older. I don't think they're form call-ups right now. I mean, able to set the tone in the MLR for 4 or 5 years, but right now they haven't been called up in a while. So,
well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So, the last question of the evening is also from Milksteak. He would like to know: I remember hearing that Season 2 will likely be moved earlier in the calendar to avoid some of the mid-year test window. But will it clash with the ARC and other spring tournaments?
I think if there's 12 teams, it will clash with the ARC. If there's not 12 teams, it won't. If it's 10 teams, I think you're fine. I think you'll have games the week after the ARC ends.
Well, do we eventually see MLR evolving into something like the Premiership, where they still play while the Six Nations is still going on?
So I think we've discussed that before. I think it does. Like, I think for me, I think the MLR season will start, in February, when this thing's finally set in stone. And, there will be like 16, 20 teams, and you aren't losing every Eagle. You aren't losing. There won't be a team with 7 Eagles gone. And they'll have had 10 years to build up the depth if like 5 Eagles are gone. And they'll be able to play. Because look at the Saracens during the Six Nations, right? Like they played, they were losing a bunch of games. And where did they find themselves? Because they built the depth over time. Top of the table. So, people were talking about Saracens not finishing top 4. Top of the table. Think about that.
And they actually ended up second place because instead of Chiefs got first.
They got a fucking bonus point? Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, as far as I know, Saracens got number 2. Exeter still number 1. And after that is Wasp and then Newcastle.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, they're still at the top of the table, so they finished in the exact same spot they finished last year, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so, you're right. Second.
I mean, by the time this happens, I think, we'll have been going 5-10 years, and, teams will have had the opportunity to build the depth they need if they lose 5 Eagles. So.
And something else, guys, that we're not really thinking about is this, if it happens, this whole global calendar thing that's supposed to kick off after the 2019 World Cup. That may also shake things up in terms of how MLR is going to fit in within the global calendar, and it will be a lot easier for MLR to fit in, as opposed to these other leagues having around longer that are still trying to find out what they're going to do. So that's another thing too.
That's all I got for you.
Likewise.
So let's
we'll take it home.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, might as well do so right now, guys. Okay, so with that, everyone, that will be episode 36 of the Earful of Dirt Rugby Major League Rugby podcast. Excuse me. Well, thank you for joining us, guys. And for those of you that are listening to the podcast form, in case you want to hear this live and you want to hear all the technical difficulties that I have for tonight, and you have to excuse me for that, make sure to go on our YouTube page, Earful Dirt Podcast, to subscribe and, of course, listen to our live streams every Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time. Also, check our website, earfulofdirt.com. Our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all of them at Earful of Dirt. Of course, make sure to, and of course, if you're listening to this in podcast form, you probably already subscribed to us either on iTunes, Acast, Google Play, Stitcher, Player FM, or SoundCloud, and make sure to leave us a review in either one. Of course, we have said iTunes overall, but if you want to put in the other ones, that's not a problem. And finally, make sure to call us on our phone number and leave us a voicemail. The phone number is 1-720-600-2679. Again, 1-720-600-2679. And with all that said, everyone, we have come to an end of another great episode of the Earful of Dirt Rugby podcast. My name, again, Victor, and my co-hosts, of course, Aaron, Josh, and Corey, and we will see you all next week. You take care.
Adios.